Divine right of kings was a way of justifying monarchies, particularly in Europe during the 16th to the 18th centuries. The idea is that the king is given his authority directly by God. Because of this, he had the right to rule completely and totally with no need for approval from the people or any representative body, such as Parliament. It is fairly clear that the theory of the divine right of kings in Europe must be traced back to the Bible. Romans chapter 13 begins in this way: "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore he who resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad." So what the Apostle Paul is saying in the letter to the Romans is that there are two types of authority for human beings. On the one hand, human beings are to be subject to God. On the other hand, they are also bound to obey kings and rulers, because these are seen as being set in place by God. This is, again, grounded on ideas in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. The book of the prophet Daniel states that God removes kings and sets them up, which makes it clear that the deity has a hand in who rules in government. To put it more simply, let's use an illustration from everyday life. Imagine a parent who has a commitment that means they'll have to hire a babysitter to watch over their child. The parent gives the babysitter instructions and then turns care of their child over to the babysitter. On the way out the door, the parent says to his 8-year-old, who sometimes tends to push the limits, "Listen to your babysitter or there will be consequences tomorrow." Once the parent leaves, authority for the child is turned over to the babysitter. Despite some of the points of legal dispute about responsibility for the child by the babysitter, this is still a good way to understand how Europeans came to view kings during the early modern period in Europe. 3 things can be seen about divine right in this illustration. 1. The king is appointed at the discretion of God, just as the babysitter is hired using the best judgment of the parent. Furthermore, it may be that it is really a busy night for babysitters, and so babysitters may be in short supply. So the babysitter may not be the best one possible, just as the king may not be the ideal king, but still is appointed and given authority by God. 2. The babysitter acts on behalf of the parent while the parent is away.